The battle for wide receiver one of the 2025 NFL Draft class is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Tetairoa McMillan, Travis Hunter, if he declares, and Luther Burden III. How close is this race? We're going to talk about that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast. Cover your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duel that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we bring you championship level content each and every single day, man. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated. DP. The battle at the top, baby, battle for wide receiver one. We're talking Luther Burden. We're talking Travis Hunter. We're talking Mr. Tetairoa McMillan himself, who is wide receiver one now after week one. And then we're going to talk about our breakout guy, right? Jalon Walker. We told you to watch out for him, and he made some impactful plays versus Clemson. And then we're going to talk about Mason Taylor, yes, the son of Hall of Fame edge rusher, right? Defensive end Mason Taylor, who plays for the LSU Tigers. Is his stock rising, and does he have something to say in this deep tight end class? But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. The battle for wide receiver one, Keith, coming into the season, the consensus was it felt like it was split in the draft community. While Tetairoa McMillan was our wide receiver one, there was a lot of Luther Burden fans out there that had him right at the top or had them in the same tier. And then going through summer scouting, coming into the season, I think we both agreed in terms of grading, we had Travis Hunter. It's like, man, if he plays wide receiver, he could be wide receiver two in this class. And when you look at how, in your opinion, after week one, of course, I think Missouri played very lackluster opponent. So like Luther Burden didn't play probably into the second quarter. He didn't play much. But we saw Travis Hunter, what he did against North Dakota State. We saw what Tetairoa McMillan did, against New Mexico. For whatever reason, they left him in single coverage the entire game. I didn't understand it after the third touchdown. I figured you would just double the guy. Like, they didn't do it. They let him get 3 bills on him. How close is this wide receiver one battle, or is it close at all, Keith? Is it Tetairoa and the drop off? Like, is he in that? I'm not saying Marvin Harrison now. Marvin Harrison is a different cat. But in this draft class, is he that type of receiver in terms of he's in that tier and somebody's got to catch up the way Malik Neighbors took the 2023 college football season and caught up to Marv in a sense?
So DP, I'll say that this is the way I could put it, is that going for 300 yards is crazy. Like, I just wanted to say that, DP. That is absolutely insane, right? We just have to stop there. He went for 300 yards week one, right? That's video game knows, right? That's NCAA 25. And even when you do it, DP, you sit there and say, this wouldn't happen in real life, right? Like, that's what you tell yourself, right? Like, that's when you remind yourself that this is a video game. Well, he went out there and put up video game numbers, DP. To answer your question, I have T-Mac one. This conversation centers around Travis Hunter, I believe. If Travis Hunter plays wide receiver enough, he's healthy, but he plays the position enough, he can make an argument, right, for wide receiver one, but even wide receiver two, right? I think he has the opportunity to be that Malik Neighbors, to make people second guess, should T-Mac be wide receiver one, right? Because what he may have over T-Mac is the down the field speed. He may have that, right? And it's just different. They're going to get it done different ways, right? And then I look at, when we talk about parallel conversations, DP, people started to like Malik Neighbors because it seemed though on film, he offers something a little bit different, right? Different body type, played in the slot, right? Explosive vertical guy, short area quickness, right? They win different ways. So I think that Travis Hunter elevates himself because he has a different profile and a different way to win. Not saying that Luther Burden isn't in it. I like Luther Burden a lot, but I think I'm seeing that those two guys could be special at this moment. And what Travis Hunter did against North Dakota State, no, it was not 300 yards like T-Mac, but that was a special performance, DP. That was a special wide receiver performance, and you've seen all the natural instincts that this guy has as simply a football player.
No, 100%. I mean, in that game, he had, for a guy that's just at 6'1", 185, you assume that strength isn't one of his strengths, right? But that catch at the end of the game, you got defender's arm tucked underneath your chin. He's trying to punch the ball out. Your body's contorted. And just a still shot of that catch from Travis Hunter on that fade route. And he talked about it in the post game press conference, I think it was, where he was like, him and Shedeur had a back and forth where he was like, throw me the ball no matter what. Shedeur did. He didn't catch it, and he blamed the fact that he didn't catch it because the DB was holding him, and he did get the flag. And Shedeur just told him in layman's terms, shut the F up and catch the ball. Like, you know what I mean? So he was like, throw it to me again, basically. And he came down with it. You just like to see that between your star wide receiver and the quarterback, that they can talk to each other like that and they understand each other. And he went out there, he was like, all right, you challenged me. I'm going to go make that catch. And I do think, to your point, Hunter could be that Malik Neighbors. Because what was Malik Neighbors compared to Marv? Marv was, and I'm saying this in the politest way possible, for a lot of people, Marv was boring because it was just like status quo, route running, polish. It wasn't, and of course, the quarterback play didn't help. He wasn't exciting, right? Like, for a lot of people. You turn on the tape of Malik Neighbors and you got him running 15 yards full speed on the flat-footed safety and against Alabama on the post route. You got him taking quick hitches and getting 40, 50 yards. He's just so explosive and dynamic. It was a lot of fun to watch. You know what I mean? It was like, man, can anybody stop this from happening, right? And so, like, with Marv, it was more like everything just looked, at times to me, Marv just made everything look so easy, but he didn't make it look fun for a lot of people, where Malik Neighbors was the opposite. He made it look super fun. It was like exciting to watch Malik Neighbors for a lot of people, man. So I think that is the thing, because Travis Hunter, speaking about, quick routes, taking it, his first touchdown in that game on the first drive against North Dakota State, it was a quick hitch. He had the spatial awareness, know that the DB was closing on his upfield shoulder. He spun off of him, and then the speed to outrun the angle from the safety who was over the top to score the touchdown. Yes, like that burst, acceleration, athleticism is all the way there for Hunter. And I'm excited to see more of Luther Burden, especially in these bigger games that they're going to get in the SEC play and stuff like that, like from Missouri. Yeah, if you see a Bama or a Georgia, whichever top defense you see, go out there and cook, because that's going to alleviate some of this pressure. Because right now, Travis Hunter looks like, if he played wide receiver, because I'm not going to lie, Keith, when Travis Hunter was going off at wide receiver, by the way, he was locked down in coverage as well, you know what I mean, against North Dakota State. But as the game was going, and they were feeding him in the passing game, all I could hear is, I was like, I thought to myself, I know Keith is happy right now. I was like, I know Keith is happy. Keith wants him to play wide receiver. I know Keith is loving this right now.
DP, I'm trying to get you on the dog side, baby. Come on, transition. Listen, this is our campaign. By week 6, we're getting DP over to the wide receiver side, baby.
I mean, he almost flipped me off of week 1. I was like, man, he might need to play wide receiver. I was like, he might be right on that one. Like, he might need to play wide receiver, dog.
Well, look, man, let's keep this thing going, Florida, man. And this is what I'm gonna say, right? I think Jalon Walker, we're gonna go ahead and coin him as one of our guys, right? The edge rusher from Georgia, man. We're gonna talk about a breakout week 1. Yes, we told you to get eyes on him. We told you to watch, and we told you this guy has an opportunity to be special, right? I tweeted it out, DP. I said Abdul Carter, Jalon Walker have the opportunity to be the 2 best edge rushers in this class. And guess what? It showed well after week 1. We're going to talk about his breakout performance and what to expect as we go through the season for Jalon Walker. Coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, on this very podcast. From things like NFL MVP preseason odds to college football's Heisman and college football playoff preseason odds. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. This is not a deal that I would pass up. Matter of fact, you shouldn't pass it up. All you need to do is this. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. One of our guys, Keith, you put me on game through summer scouting. You said, man, DP, you got to watch this kid from Georgia, Jalon Walker. And I was like, man, Keith, I don't think I heard that name before. He was like, please, you got to watch. You got to check him out. 6'2", 245, in the game against Clemson where, like, that game, and I talked about it on yesterday's pod, Keith, while you were traveling. Like, and we talked about Cade Klubnik. The defense for Clemson was going to give them a shot, and they did for the first whole entire half.
They held on, DP. They held on for the first half plus maybe halfway through the third-ish. They gave them a shot. The offense couldn't get going. But watching Jalon Walker out there, Keith, like, they lined up at different spots, off-ball backer, edge. There was a rep, and I think it was against one of the tight ends, and I was just like, I watched the blocking rep. I was like, yeah, this didn't go well. Like, this didn't go well at all. I watched him against one of the I think it was the left tackle. They tried to, like, kick out and try to, wash him down, stonewall that. I was like, he plays with such great pad level and leverage. He's always underneath the blocker, but his strength, like thick lower halves, a dense frame, but also the pass rushing ability, the first step quickness off the ball, the bend around the edge. I'm like, all right, Kirby, I'm not going to lie. I appreciate the versatility that he brings. But let's not make this more difficult or complicated than it needs to be, Kirby. Like, let's go ahead and let this dude play edge, 6'2", 245. I think we talked about him last week, Keith, and I brought Hassan Reddick. You know what I mean? Like, there's a couple guys. I think Carl Lawson. There's a couple guys that you can throw out there and, like, listen, he fits that type of mold. This young man, like, yeah, and I saw somebody tweet, he was playing the way we wanted Michael Walker to play. Guess what? Michael Williams. I was about to go there, DP, and I think I said it on the last show, and I'm about to go there right now. He might be the better edge rusher, point blank, period. Right? Michael Williams may have the measurables, and I don't know when. Obviously, we go through the draft process and who finishes on top because of the arm length and who runs the fastest 40, and we're gonna throw in the RAS scores and everything else. Right? Is going to
take right out the window.
Yeah, we're gonna throw all the film out the window. We're gonna throw the film out the window, DP. We're gonna go with other things, but we have to, and that's why I said Abdul Collar and Jalon Walker might be the two best edge rushers in this class, and Jalon Walker might be the best edge rusher on the Georgia football team. Point blank period. We talk about natural instincts and ability, and I think he started to showcase that. I, going into the season, was just hoping. We talked about this. I was like, hopefully they put him at edge, but hopefully just with him being a starter, because last year I don't think he was a starter, right? He still split reps a whole lot. Hopefully just with the increase in reps, it increases, obviously, his pass rushes, increases his ability to be on the field and make plays. And so that way people can see his talent. I remember when I first cut him on, and I was like, nobody has ever mentioned this guy. I was like, I had to make sure he was eligible, right? Make sure, because I'm like, why is nobody discussing this guy? Because literally just the Alabama game alone showcased that. So hopefully he can continue to keep it up. But I think right now you're talking about stock rising, and we know guys like, Dane Brugler mentioned him and, things like that. But I think that it's one thing to just mention a guy, but it's also to kind of like stamp and say, hey, like, nah, this is the real deal, what we're watching, right? And I think coming out week 1 versus Clemson was a real sign that this guy is ready to lock and load. And for me, DP, it's the tenacity he plays with, right? It's the high motor, it's the giving it all. You can't coach those things. And I know people gonna say, oh, you could do the pursuit drills, right? And the pursuit drills where they have the wide receiver run up the sideline and then everybody chases them. But guess what? When it's outside of pursuit drills, DP, and I've seen this, that players revert back to who they are, right? If you're either a hustle player or you're not, right? Like you either want it better than everybody else on the field every rep or you don't. And that's just simply how it goes. It's very hard to coach laziness out of players because guess what? When they get tired and it's the fourth quarter, they're still going to revert back to who they are, right? It's easy to be a hustle player in the first quarter, but you can tell that this guy has relentless effort as an edge rusher, down in and down out at stack backer. He has relentless effort down in and down out. You just want him on your football team, DP. Like, you know what? That guy's a culture guy, right? Because he's going to be the first one to the football and then turn and look around at everybody else, right? And if he's your best player on your team, he sets the standard. It's almost like they always talk about it with the quarterback, right? Like the first in, last one out, where there's certain elements that goes to this on the defensive side of the football, DP. When you're a hustle player and you're the best player on the defense, and you're giving your all, well, how could you be the fifth best player on this defense and not give you all, right? Like if I'm the best in doing this, how could you be halfway good and not doing it? So I think it sets a tempo and it sets an effort, DP. But Jalon Walker definitely showed well, and it was against a fairly good team. Maybe the offense wasn't that great, but still a fairly solid team. I think you said you like this offensive line better than what you liked last year. Phil Maffa, they have a couple wide receivers. So it's not like they were scrubs. Clemson didn't look great, but it was still a solid football team.
No, and he was so impactful on both sides. I remember as you were talking, I remember there was a run. They tried to throw like a pitch outside to Phil Maffa, and they had a condensed split from the receivers. Then Cole Turner, number 22, kind of tried to help chip. I think it was Michael versus Jake Brenningstool. I was like, I don't know if I want that situation because Brenningstool's not the greatest blocker. I don't know if I want that one-on-one.
That's not the matchup. That is not the matchup. I don't want him
blocking at one-on-one, Keith. So he tried to chip him, but in the middle, in the midst of chipping him, he didn't take Jalon. And Jalen's working over the top, and he has the speed to then meet Phil Maffa at the alley point, at the start of the alley. And I was just like, yeah, this play is dead now. You know what I mean? Just like that speed, the instinct, the natural. And that's the thing, like it's hard. You rarely ever see a guy have the natural instincts at both edge rusher and off-ball backer, to where it's like, if a team doesn't need him to be an edge rusher, like, man, he could be a really good off-ball backer. He's got the size, the athleticism, the instincts. But if I don't need an off-ball backer and I need an edge, he could be a dynamic edge rusher because of the exact same things. And just watching him make the plays he's making, and I just wonder how soon through this season, because mock drafts are going to start flying, every couple of weeks, stuff like that. We get them. How soon do we start seeing him top and just see that rise, right? Like somebody sneak him in, sneak him in the back, back 30, right? Top 28. He's somewhere in there. Then it goes top 25, top 15. It was like, how high is this young man going to climb? Because right now he looks like the best player on that defense.
Well, DP, I have a mock draft coming up this week, baby. I might put him top 15. I might be all in, DP. So all I can say is stay tuned to what might happen. And guess what? We might have to talk about this upcoming Monday, right? We might have us a mock draft Monday where Jalon Walker appears fairly high. We will see what's coming up next. But DP, it's time to talk about one of those Bengal Tigers, man. We have a potential breakout star at the tight end position, Mr. Mason Taylor, like I said at the top of the show, son of Hall of Famer Jason Taylor. And if you watch that LSU USC game, you can say that he was one of those breakout stars and a guy we need to keep our eyes on. I scouted him during the summer. We're going to talk about what I've seen and then what did he do in this LSU versus USC matchup coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. Guys, some of the benefits of using Game Time is simple. They have seat views for every seat in the venue before you purchase. So before you buy your ticket, you know what vantage point you and your family will have. And that's a big part of going to live events, is having the best viewing experience. Also, they have lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection, and more. Guys, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What is something you'd love to learn as an adult? Do you make time for the new things as often as you like, or was that just lost in your childhood? Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. You're not too old to learn new things and enjoy life, but having the right mental capacity, the right mental state of mind plays a big part in that, simply because you're able to be the best version of yourself. So, guys, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, last week I called my shot and I said the 2025 tight end class was going to be one of the best ones we've scouted in recent history. And you said, and we just listed off some names, all the names, Jake Brenningstool, Luke Lachey, all those guys. You was like, DP, can't forget about Mason Taylor over at LSU. And Sunday rolls around, and I was like, all right, I gotta watch Mason Taylor and see what happens this year. Malik's gone, Brian Thomas Jr. is gone. What's going to happen with this receiver core, things of that nature. This guy is 6'5", 255, Keith. He is one fluid mover. Like, he's fluid. He's athletic. Like, it makes all the sense because it's in his gene pool because his dad was the same way, just playing edge rusher. And just watching him after the catch, and in that game, he was targeted 9 times. He came down with 7 receptions, 62 yards receiving, 9 yards per catch. He played both in line and in the slot. And of course, as we know, that's a big part of playing tight end nowadays, going into the NFL, is having that ability to detach from the line. We can move you out into the slot, make you a big slot, power slot of sorts, and see if we can create that mismatch of you on a safety, you on a tight on a linebacker, or you on a small nickel corner. And there was one play where they threw, I think it was like maybe an RPO or a play action into the flats to him. And there was a USC defender like closing in or nearby, and he just like ran past him in the work around him. And I was like, that burst and acceleration at 255, that's a little different. You don't see guys nearly 260 pounds move that way. And I was just excited to see. Hopefully I want him to with Malik and Brian Thomas Jr. gone, Kyron Lacy showed that he's listen. I said it on the pod. I was like, sorry, Ohio State. LSU is wide receiver you. Like, it just is what it is at this point. If Kyron Lacy ends up being the first rounder, like, there's no way you can kind of, fight against that. But outside of him, of course, you got CJ Daniels. I want Mason Taylor to get 5 to 7 targets a game. Like, I need him to be peppered with targets because to me, he could be that difference maker in this passing offense. With Garrett Nussmeier looking like a dude at quarterback, yeah, like LSU's offense looks like it might be rolling yet again for another year.
No, so I agree with that 100%, DP. And this was another game where it was good to see one of the guys that you scouted in the summer, right, kind of, show up, right? Because you kind of it's like, hey, I see it. Now he just has to go and do it on a high level. And that's what he did, DP. And I thought it was just interesting, because it was early on in the game, right, where they fed him, some play action stuff, and he, working those over routes, things like that. And he just showed that the value in Mason Taylor will be, DP, is that he can simply do it all, right? And I don't scout him and believe that he's any type of freakish 4-4 athlete, right? I'm not talking about that. When I say do it all, just meaning that he's effective and efficient at doing everything, right? And there's a lot of value in that because some teams, right, when you talk about just different schemes, right? And the fact that I think that this is a guy that you can just take him and place him in any scheme in the NFL. If you need a guy to block right in line, he can get the job done well enough. If you need to move him out to the slot, he can run routes well enough, right? There's not any there's not any D level deficiencies, right? Where you may grade him as a D in this or a C minus, right? It's like the floor is C, and then there's a couple things that he does as a B plus, things like that. So I think that's going to start to reveal itself as the value. I was thinking about different guys where you can talk about comps, right? The one guy that comes to mind, I don't know why, is Dalton Schultz. And it comes to mind for him. You may have different comps overall, but I just thought that just a solid overall guy, somebody you won't compare as an elite athlete. I remember even with the Cowboys, right? I remember watching Dalton Schultz. I'm like, he good football player, right? But guys that just simply know how to get the job done. And I think that's something that's very underrated with the tight end position and scouting, DP, is that it takes a lot of instincts, right? When we talk about working in the middle of the field, uncovering, being on the same page with the quarterback, right? Being that kind of blanket, and then also adding into the versatility part. So I like Mason Taylor. I'm glad he showed up and showed out, because I definitely think he can supplant his name potentially in that top 5 to 7 conversation as far as tight ends when it's all said and done, if he gets the targets.
And I think that's going to be the key, right? Because when you think about the tight ends, right, Colston Loveland, Oscar Delp are the guys that are probably the two shoe-ins for that tight end 1 and tight end 2 spot. It's going to be depending on like who has the better season, things of that nature. Yep. But I think they're listed almost identical, height and weight, 6'5", 245, and we'll see what they look like at the combine. You got Terrence Ferguson over at Oregon, Mitchell Evans over at Notre Dame, Luke Lachey, 6'6", 250 at Iowa, Tyler Warren, keep your eyes on that kid, 6'6", 260. He's also another athletic mover at a big body. Keith, you know how much I talked about, how much I said I liked Luke Lachey. But I could see Mason Taylor because I think Mason is a more explosive straight line athlete and moving more fluid and got more burst out of his breaks and stuff, to where, again, both of them, I think Mason Taylor's a good run blocker, so he can help you set the edge, especially with such an influx of zone running and zone blocking in the NFL with that West Coast Shanahan McVay run scheme being so prevalent now. Like, you put Mason Taylor in one of those offenses, I think you're going to cook with him in the run game, but then it's the ability to make him a weapon in the passing game. Get him the ability to create yards after the catch. In that game, he had 43 yards after the catch. So, like, majority of his yards came after he caught the football. Yeah. So, like, that right there, I think he's got a real shot. That's why I said I want them to pepper him with targets. Because as much as I like Luke Lachey, Keith, we saw it. I mean, the Iowa offense, they played a bad team. They scored 30, and I still don't know how. I think they had a couple, maybe some defensive touchdowns. I don't know. But the quarterback situation at Iowa still isn't great, and it can hold back a Luke Lachey. You know what I mean? It can still hold him back from being able to produce at the way that we're hoping to see him produce. But if Mason Taylor goes out there, has 800, 900 yards and 10 touchdowns as like the second and third receiving option behind Kyron Lacy and maybe CJ Daniels, and he goes out there to the combine, measures in well, tests well, why couldn't he be tight end 3? You know what I mean? Why couldn't he be tight end 4? And we seen guys with less. To me, we seen, like, what was it, Britton Strange from Penn State 2 years ago?
Strange, and I know you like him, right? But I guess I think it did catch people off guard was our guy from Kansas State,
Ben
Sinnott, right? And I think he started to just rise up boards, and I think he rose up boards because of simply what we just talked about, is that he can kind of do it all, right? Like he can do everything. And I think that's like a prime case study of, this is why we're saying he has an opportunity to be a high third, second round pick if he just continues to do this right at a steady pace. And like we said, you don't need any 200, you don't need no 300 Tetairoa McMillan games, right? But just a consistent 7 catch, 80 yards, right, to get you through the season. And you're sitting there like, okay, this guy had a fairly good season. Like he showed that he can definitely be a target. And I think that LSU offense is definitely going to be, they're going to have to take the approach of being well-rounded. So I think while he get the targets, he's also going to be able to show his run blocking and do different things. And I think he's going to be a big part of this offense moving forward. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. If you can hear my voice, man, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. On tomorrow's episode, I think we need to do a Dame's dude after week 1. Is anybody getting in the club after week 1 that they might not have gotten into before? We will talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.